Hello, and welcome to the Holy Rivals Show. I'm your host, Nathan Bomber Brown. I've got with us today the Wild Ute.
Howdy.
Hey, what's up? It's not red, it's blue. And then we've got Jim Williams there,
Hey
who's
guys.
been able to give us some time today. We're very honored to have you here today, Jim.
Well, you're very kind. It's a pleasure to be with you guys.
So you guys have been out in front. You specifically and your team have put together a couple stories in the last week or so, and we wanted to kind of go through those. The big with whatever that messaging meant that Greg Flugar and 365 mentioned yesterday, which is they're in and vetted, but what does that really mean? And then this note you put out today about the Pac-12, and they're having some meetings next week, and who knows what they're going to cover. So I'm going to turn the time over to Wild Ute to get us started, and we'll sort of go.
Hey,
Okay.
thanks, Bomber. Hey, first, I'd like to give kudos to actually Cougs Are Us. And you can see the logo top right-hand side of the screen, that yin and yang logo. That's going to be the new logo for the show. It was designed by Cougs Are Us, and you can find him Twitter at a Dirty South Scout. So he is the GIF king. I call him GIFs. And he designed this awesome logo for us. So kudos to him. And we are absolutely honored to have 7-time Emmy Award-winning winner Jim Williams on the show with us today to have discussion all about realignment, all about college football, and his thoughts to the Holy War.
That's it. It's a pleasure to be here, guys. Brett McMurphy. Brett's a great guy. I've known Brett since he was the cover USF for the Tampa Tribune, prior to him going to ESPN and then to Action Network. Let me give you a little quick background. The vetting process, don't get too caught up in that. There's probably 20 or 30 universities who have been interested in being in the conference, being in the Big Ten, being in the Southeastern Conference, whatever, right? You've got dossiers on all of them. When they said they've been vetted, okay, that simply means that they have a team, meaning the conference has a team of people who do that. And they look at every possible thing. And it's, is there something buried in the closet here that might, if we did decide to bring them on, that may come back to bite us in history. I'll give you an instance, okay? Syracuse was going to take Rutgers' place. I mean, Rutgers was not in the original Big Ten, expansion plan. It was Syracuse, because Syracuse has a much bigger footprint in New York City than Rutgers does, okay? However, just prior to wanting to add Maryland and Syracuse, what happened was Syracuse got into some issues, and I'll leave that. I'm not making judgment, throwing shade on Syracuse. Got in some issues that required them to resign from the AAU, which is one of the requirements to get into the Big Ten. So that left them with a hole. Who were they going to get? They knew they wanted a New York, outlet. So they went to Rutgers, okay? Not necessarily New York, more like Piscataway, New Jersey, but 4 or 5 exits down the street from Manhattan. So that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about vetting, right? That didn't get out. Syracuse part of it didn't get out until years after. It wasn't mentioned. It didn't happen. Why? Because they didn't offer him. They didn't offer Syracuse a spot at the table. So the vetting aspect that's probably been done a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. So what does it mean? It means that, okay, if Tony Petitti and the people at the Big Ten choose to get an invitation to send them out to Washington and Oregon, shouldn't be. It should be a fast track to get them in if that's what they wanted. So that's all that really means. And that you could probably get. We could probably, if we actually put truth serum to the people at the Big Ten office, we could probably see that there are folders on probably stacked to the ceiling.
Right.
I wouldn't bet against one of those folders having Utah's name on it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, what it is, we have to break this down so that people don't get hyperbolic about it, is that conferences do vetting of other schools all of the time, because we're now in a position where if I want to move on somebody, if I'm Brett Yormark, right, and I want to move on Arizona, I need to know what Arizona has. What's their profit and loss deal? What's their, where is there a hole in Arizona? And I'm not, there may not, there's probably not a hole in Arizona, but I'm just saying you want to know, because if you're the commissioner of the Big 12 or any of these commissioners, you do not want to screw it up by bringing on someone who's going to get, who's 20 minutes away from being, penalized from the NCAA because of something they didn't tell you.
Right.
So all of that stuff has to be done. And normally it's done way ahead of time, and it's normally done through different services and folks like that. So
what about,
are we talking?
Really, can I just follow up really quick? So follow up to the second half of that story, which was that NBC, CBS, Fox, that money had been found. That it's not the vetting, I think, that most people are focusing on. It's the fact that they were able to find funding to actually bring them on.
All right, let me tackle that. I have not been able to confirm that part of the story. Okay. If you remember that story, that did not come from Brett McMurphy. Okay, I'm not sure where that came from. So let me just be in fairness. Okay, I personally have not been able to vet that piece of information, but I'm also not denying it because I don't know. Okay. It sounds a little, I'll just leave it at that. That did not come from Brett McMurphy. I don't know where it came from. Okay. But as I said, I'm not gonna. It may very well be true. I don't know that to be true. The people who I've contacted have not given me any indication that is, but that does not mean it's not. Okay, right. So
fair enough.
At this moment, I can't tell you that that's exactly true or not. So I'm going to go with the preface that I trust that somebody said it, but I don't know it to be true. Ergo, I spoke to some people on Friday with NBC about this talk about, Big Ten in the dark, right? There's no such thing. All right. And again, I don't want to monopolize, so I'll keep this short. Think about this for a moment. You're a programmer, right? You're going to take Saturday Night Live off of NBC to air. I don't care who the game is. Okay, you're not going to get the ratings Saturday Night Live's going to get. Where it could come, all right, where it could come is they have a separate deal with Peacock for 8 games.
Right.
You could theoretically see where they would go and do those games on, air them on Peacock opposite Saturday Night Live. But there's a long way down the road from the guys at NBC I spoke to on Friday to get to that point. They have not put pen to paper and assigned, any producers, directors, anything to develop a Big Ten after dark yet. Will it happen? Could it happen? Absolutely it could. But there is no concept for that at this point in time.
Okay.
Hey Jim, so Saturday Night Live, we're looking at SNL. I don't know what kind of ratings that usually would pull in.
Mm-hmm.
Based on your experience, would that be more significant rating wise than like a Big Ten game if it were to come to that?
Probably about 2 times the ratings that a game would be. And remember that we don't even know what a rating at a 10 o'clock start, 10:30 kick, right? That's on the East Coast.
Yeah.
That could be very difficult to draw those kind of numbers. The other thing you have to realize too, guys, is how powerful Lauren Michaels is at NBC.
Right.
I wouldn't want to go into Lauren's office and say, "Hey, Lauren, I know you've got, let's see, who is that? Oh yeah, Taylor Swift. You got Taylor Swift on tonight." Well, here's the thing: we're considering we're going to bump Penn State and Ohio and Michigan to the 7th. I'm sorry, it'd be USC and Michigan. We're going to bump it to 10:30 here on the East Coast, and sorry, we're going to knock SNL off. And oh, by the way, all of our news divisions in every little town between from New York City to Los Angeles, their 11 o'clock news is gone.
Yeah, that wouldn't go well.
So, okay, on what planet is that going to be done? It's not going to be done on this planet.
No, I think it would have to be a Peacock play. I think that's obvious, and they would add more bandwidth by flexing to cover additional games for additional teams. But I'm a big fan of Peacock. We have it here in Utah. We have Comcast. I use it for Premier League, and I love it. So I don't think adoption is off very far to making that and go head to head. I could easily see a 7:30 with USC, Michigan playing at 7:30 on Peacock.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's as I say, if it's going to be done, it will be done there. And the reason that they haven't, fleshed that part of it out is from a scheduling standpoint. Let's say on big NBC, you have, Ohio State and Penn State. Okay.
Right.
But at the same time, SC's at home, and they're playing against Northwestern. Okay. You got the number 3 and number 2 markets playing against each other. It's not as sexy as Ohio State and Penn State, but it's something that you would like to put in prime time, and you would then use your Peacock card to use that to go there. So that's what I'm saying. You could literally be up against yourself with Peacock and NBC, which if you own the other network, you don't mind, right?
Right.
So that's where it could come in. So I'm saying that what I was told was that we have not made a decision that every Peacock game is going to be at a 10:30 kick, no more than we've made a decision yet that every Peacock game is going to be a 7:30 kick.
They got a year to figure it out, though.
Yeah, they got plenty of time.
Yeah.
With all this looming, what in the world is the Pac-12 going to do with its TV deal? What's the latest you've heard, Jim?
I haven't heard that Apple has moved anywhere. I mean, their whole thing, and this started all the way back in 2019, guys. Apple came to them 1 month after they were on, from launching, and Tim Cook sent his people over, and they began the process of talking to then Larry Scott, who was the commissioner, and asking him what was it going to take, and they're going, "What's it going to take to do what?" And he goes, "To take everything, the whole package." And they go, "Well, you're a streamer and you've only been on the air for a month, and this isn't, they were still 4 years away from the contract." And so they've been chatting about this now, since 2019. Tim Cook is a very interesting character. He graduated from Auburn. You can see him on the sidelines of Auburn football game. He graduated with a master's degree from Duke. He sits next to Mike Krzyzewski, on the floor, at the Dean. At the Cameron Indoor Arena. Think of it this way for Apple, right? It's a proof of concept. if I spend X amount of dollars on the Pac and I prove my theory that we can do this, then I can do it with any conference in the country.
Right.
So it's a proof of concept. So you have to think of Apple in a whole different ballgame. Apple can spend money and lose it, and don't, because it's a development. So again, it's a research development thing for them. So they're not worried about the money. I don't think we have any sense of the Pac-12 that the money is going to be the object. I don't think that's.
No, it's exposure, isn't it? It's all about exposure.
It's going to be fighting, and I mean this. You're going to have presidents and athletic directors arguing over, and remember, here's one other thing, guys. How, if you're the president of any of the Pac-12 universities, including Utah, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you square this? You bring people into your university. You talk about your relationships with Amazon, with Apple, with Google, with all of the tech giants, every last one of them. You have, I mean, if you just took Pac-12 graduates, right? You're talking 70,000 Pac-12 graduates are employed by the tech companies. You go over and say, we help birth Amazon Prime Video. We help birth Apple TV. And now you're going to tell Apple TV and Amazon, sorry guys, you know, we are okay taking your money, but you know, I got this basketball coach in Arizona who gets pissed off because he doesn't get seen. You know, athletic directors have very little push in this. It's going to be interesting to see how those battles go down. Because as we speak, what is, you know, the Apple Watch that people use, right?
Mm-hmm.
The concept and the research and development was done at Stanford,
Right?
through the Stanford Medical School. Okay, graduate at one of the big things at Utah is Adobe.
Right.
They've got tremendous relationship with Adobe. They have tremendous relationships with a number of tech companies out on the coast. Okay, these are bridges you don't want to burn. The moment you leave that conference to go to the Big Ten, the moment you leave that conference to go to the Pac-12, I'm sorry, to the Big 12, too many 12s here. That bridge is gone. You napalm that bridge. So those relationships, academic relationships, become very, very frayed. And so I have to decide, because every school that's left in the Pac-12 and the Big 12 do not make money. It's not even close, okay? They don't even come close to covering their athletic budget. Is it better to have 31 million a year coming in than 21 million? I mean, I'm not a mathematician, but yeah, sure, of course it is.
Right.
But what are you losing if you leave?
Yep.
That's what you have to think. If you're the president of a university, what am I losing if we leave? And if you're at Washington, you have been to Jeff Bezos's office numerous times. People they've been to the campus. They just started an AI situation of artificial intelligence thing going. You know, they've got incubators all over the place. Utah has got some incubators they're working on with a number of tech companies. So it's a mindset that you have to get beyond sports and realize that these are academic institutions that run a sports department. Okay. And that's why it's so difficult. And I wrote a really long piece investigating this in Forbes a while back, saying, look, this conference is unique in that, right? That would be like going to the Big 12 and saying to, you know, ExxonMobil, you know, who props up three or four really good universities in the conference where they get money from them and say, I really can't take your oil money because we're now into solar. It's like, who's going to do that? Nobody's going to do that.
Well, the counter argument to that is you can have your alliances with your different commercial enterprises in these universities, but and I believe it was the Arizona State president that said that won't make a difference if nobody's watching us. And if we take this deal in 5 years and our exposure is we only have 1 or 2 windows every week and every game isn't really being watched because it's on these other platforms, what does that do? Because if you're Arizona and Arizona State, all you can think of is we're never going to get on, right? If you have Oregon and Washington and Utah, they're going to dominate those games, which means, that exposure
right,
thing.
But again, you're thinking at it from a sports standpoint. You're not thinking at it from a business standpoint.
No, it's I'm only.
And again, we're not. Look,
right.
We're not arguing. I know.
Oh, of course
the
not.
Point that you're making is a good one. Okay. Absolutely, because in some cases, universities use athletics to get a student to campus, right?
Right.
So I'm not doing that. What I'm trying to do to people out there, because I don't have a dog in this fight. It doesn't matter to me. I hope the Pac-12 stays alive because I enjoy, conferences being able to have regionality. I like that part. And so that my goal has always been to do this. Let me explain how the Pac-12 can stay together. Whether they do or they don't, that's up to them. I mean, each president has to make their own decision. God willing, they would never call me to ask me about that. Okay, even though not this far into the race. Okay, maybe a year ago that would have been something to talk about. But that's all I'm doing, guys. I'm not it. Look, Brett Muirmark and what he's done at the Big 12 is fantastic. He's a very forward-thinking guy. Bowlesby did well by adding the 4 schools that's going to help them. So they've done a number of things really well, which is fantastic for the conference. And, you have to say to yourself, if nothing else happened today, if the Pac stayed in place and the Big 12 stayed in place, if you're a Big 12 fan, you got to be really happy because you've got a whole lot further down the road than what you were a year ago. Okay.
Right. And I think they would say that. I think most people would agree with that. Yeah.
And honestly, they got the 3rd best conference at this point.
Yeah. So going back to a point that you made here, do you think that business relationships will be tarnished? So say like you're the University of Washington and you were in the Pac, you're associated with Stanford and all the Pac schools. And if you left to the Big 10 or the Big 12 or the ACC, do you think that would tarnish business relationships?
I think it would fray it, okay? Because you're basically sitting in a room and saying, yeah, we're good for all this, but I got to go play sports in another place because it's pennies on the dollar to what the actual budget and I mean, you're paying. You've got student fees and I mean, you're at the University of Utah. You just graduated the 4th best percentage of student athletes in all of college sports. Okay, you're number 2 in graduation rate in the Pac to Stanford. That's a pretty amazing piece of work. How am I going to recruit? Am I going to lose recruits who want the education versus the recruits I'm going to get who want to play? Am I going to get a better football team or a better basketball team? What's it going to cost me on the other?
Right.
You throw NIL into this too, and it gets really
it gets very messy.
Well, NIL, I mean, California and Stanford have pretty much said, well, I know for Stanford for a fact, it said we're not going to play in the NIL. We're not going to try to compete.
Well, you know what?
That's going to be tough for them to be in any league if they don't do that.
Not really. No. Stanford has a $37 billion endowment.
But does that money go to athletics, Jim?
They don't care, is what I'm saying.
No, I know, but the players do. I'm
Here's
saying you're not going to get a 5-star out of Florida to come play at Stanford if you don't.
You're not going to get a
NIL.
5-star out of Florida to graduate from Stanford.
Oh, well, I don't know about that. It just depends who it is.
You know what I'm saying.
I do understand what you're saying.
They're not rushing to get 5 stars. Okay.
Right. No, I get that. I understand.
But here's the thing. Stanford has won more titles in NCAA than any other school in the entire NCAA.
Right.
In 20 different places. The point that Stanford tries to make is you can be academically good and still be at the top of the food chain in college sports. Now, it may not be football, may not even be basketball, but all the way down. I mean, this is a school that Tiger Woods and John McEnroe went to.
Right.
So,
I think we know that, but they drive the bus in every other campus.
So the three of us are fans. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We want to see our teams do well, no matter where they are.
Right.
Okay? And they may look at the end of the day, Utah and Arizona, and both Arizona and Colorado may very well end up in the Big 12. And if that's the case, then God love them. I wish them well. I don't think that the universities are going to suddenly fall back on hard times with regard to academics or anything like that.
Right.
If Wisconsin, I'm sorry, I keep saying Wisconsin, Washington and Oregon go to the Big Ten, God love them. I'm sure they'll be fine. If I were Brett Muirmark, the one thing I would try to do, and he's capable of doing this, is begin the process of also saying, hey, look, not only is Pac-12, Big 12 going to get better and market and brand ourselves as a fantastic place, to come to school to play and participate in sports. But we're going to show you this. We're going to be leaders in academics because here's some of the people we're bringing in.
Right. I said that this week.
If you would take that extra element to his pitch, that not only are we going to have, we're going to have a combine down in Jerry World, and not only are we going to place this in Mexico, not only that, we've got these 5 or 6, major corporations. We're going to start doing research and development and all the different types of academic aspects to it, because we want our student athletes to understand that absolutely sports is important, but so is academics, and we're going to do those two. If he could marry those two together, which I think there's no question in my mind he could,
sure,
then then there's no way you can say academically, all right, well, you're going to lose we're going to lose IQ points when we move from, which is crazy.
Right.
Because again, Big 12 has fantastic academics as well. It's not like they're
a lot of people talk about AAU. It's AAU, right?
Yeah.
People care about that designation a lot. 3 out of the 4 four-corner schools are AAU.
I'm sorry?
3 of the 4 four-corner schools are AAU.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So if any of those pull over to the Big 12, I mean, that automatically enhances the prestige of the academics of the
Absolutely.
I'm with you 100%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's not a zero-sum game.
Jim, I've got a question for you, and this is a Utah Ute specific question.
Okay.
In your speculation, I guess, in your view, what should the University of Utah be doing right now to navigate these waters, to put themselves in the best position possible?
I would hire a public relations firm. That sounds stupid, but Utah is probably one of the most underrated brands in college sports. It's, you've been to 2 consecutive Rose Bowls. And by the way, congratulate, if you were at the Rose Bowl this past year, keep your program, because that's the last of the Big Ten Pac-12 Rose Bowls.
Right.
So that's a history thing.
Yeah.
What I think that BYU and Utah actually have the same problem, and it's a perception problem. If you're there, if you go to BYU, if you go to Utah, you see what it's like on campus. You see what the people are like. Okay, you get to know that what I don't know about this place, I'm now beginning to understand why they love to be here.
Right.
Why the students want to be here, because of what's going on. You've got a story to tell in both places, okay? But you're not telling it.
Yeah.
You're not telling it to anybody west of or east of the Mississippi, right? It's not. It's like banging against a brick wall. I personally, again, I would, in both cases, but specifically to your question, how could you not be proud of winning the conference and graduating 93% of the athletes that played played at athletics at the university?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I
I
think
mean,
that's fantastic.
My God, that's and the only team that beat you in your conference is bloody Stanford.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Right.
what kind of story? And you've got a medical school out there. You've got all kinds of wonderful stories to be told.
Yeah.
Yet you're out there on an island where people, for whatever reason, don't know this.
Yeah.
So make them know it.
Right. Which is what this show's about, frankly. The Holy
Yeah.
Rivals was generated out of a conversation that me and you'd had, and it's like, what can we do to enhance not only the Holy War as a rivalry, but tell the rest of the world, we're twins separated at birth, very crudely, and but we both have very similar values. We've serviced the same general type of demographics, and my personal opinion is I would love, and I think people are starting to see that if Utah and BYU were in the same conference again, whatever conference that would be enhanced immediately by the rivalry and everything that it brings.
I don't, I'm not going to get into the Holy War because that's got me in trouble before. But
yeah, we'll have you on for a different show. We'll do that a different day.
Okay. I'm fascinated by it, but the BYU element to this, right? Again, it's kind of like, it's not that people, because you and I had a conversation in the pre-show that I know about the BYU, been there, and we used to bring those games, into other, into the East Coast when we were, programming.
Right.
And it's just a matter of understanding, that this is a very unique, very interesting university that has a good story to tell on its own. Okay.
Yeah.
Getting away from the religion aspect of it.
Yeah.
And getting back to, and I'll give you for instance, which Liberty. Okay. Liberty is about as conservative a Christian university as you can find on the planet.
Yes.
Okay? Yet Liberty did a wonderful job of pitching what, their lifestyle, their athletic situation, that it was more secular than you would think.
Right.
And whether it's true or not, I have no idea, but they sold it that way, and enough people started buying it that Liberty really began to get a better feel on a national level as to, okay, well, maybe we shouldn't be too freaked out about scheduling Liberty on our schedule because now BYU's never had a problem that I'm aware of
I can't think of
anybody.
one. No.
So that doesn't seem to be a problem. I have a problem with them because they beat my University of South Florida Bulls like they stole something. But
Yeah, that was
yeah,
a beat.
but at least my Gators. I still don't know how the Gators beat Utah. But
Yeah, that'll be a good game. Hopefully.
It
Hey,
was,
you
it
had
was
one
very
last.
tough. It was very tough. Yeah. I
So
was there
you.
in person. Yep.
Sorry.
And then watching that at the goal line was very difficult. Took a lot of heat from Gator fans, but what an amazing experience.
well, the swamp can be that way.
Ute fans travel well. They travel as good as BYU.
So does BYU.
So yeah, they're both very good in that man. So you'd had one last thing you wanted to touch on, the Big Ten and kind of what they've done to his Pac-12 and Utah in particular. You want to touch on that before we got to go?
Yeah, you know what? I do want to touch on this, and I think there's some shots need to be fired at the Big Ten, and the Big Ten's kind of sitting over in like their own high horse right now. And I feel like they haven't really taken the heat that they probably deserve for working at the deal for the LA schools in general. And now with this Oregon-Washington scenario looming, as reported, it's really destabilized the Pac, which is really difficult for one as a Pac fan. And it's challenging to deal with because really, it feels like the Big stabbed a brother in the back. The Big and the Pac really were two brothers together, almost like in some way like BYU and Utah. And it gets me choked up too, because really it feels like the conference that I love is kind of being destroyed. And really, I mean, them going after Oregon and Washington and being and trying to work out that deal and destabilizing everything right now. So teams like Utah, teams like Arizona feel they need to make a move to the Big 12. I feel like the Big really needs to own that and take some responsibility for that. And some shots need to be fired at them saying, really, it's you. It's you ruined the Pac. It's not the Big 12. It's the Big 10. And it looks like they might fire that kill shot if they get Oregon and Washington. So, as a Pac fan, again, it's just really difficult to see that. And it seems really unfair. And I would just ask that the Big, Petiti, and everybody over there, just finish this off if you're going to do it.
Right.
Just go after Oregon and Washington. And just let us move on right here. Or if you're not going to do it, just go public.
Right.
And just tell everyone that, no, we're not going to expand right now. So the Pac has some stability because these teams want to stick together. But unless the Big stands down, it's just not going to happen. And the Four Corner schools might feel obligated to jump over to the Big 12, but really the Big's in the shadow. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I don't think that they've really taken the shots that they deserve.
I think it's a good point. I think that, and I worked for the Big Ten. I think that how can you not say that you were the one that destabilized them when you took the number 2 market in the country and took their top brand in SC out? Now, they didn't take the top brand UCLA out, but they took the LA schools out. That destabilized the conference just the way when Oklahoma and Texas left, the Big 12 to go to the SEC. The fact that Greg Sankey can sit there and say that he sat beside Bob Bowlesby for 3 years and didn't say a damn thing about it, is no different than what happened from the standpoint of Kliavkoff and Warren sitting together going, kumbaya, we got nothing to worry about. If there was a problem, and you can't do this without help, okay? SC and UCLA, if they had a problem, then they should have gone to the presidents of the universities and say, look, we have this problem. We need to get this done. How do we make it work? Because we don't want to go to the Big Ten, but we will. Use it as a threat.
Right.
That might have helped. But, I agree. I mean, I saw the Big East disappear.
Right.
And that was painful for me because, again, one of the things, guys, and I apologize. I've probably spoken way too much, and I apologize for that.
No, you're great. Were you kidding me? This is fantastic.
The thing that concerns me about, look, I don't want to see the Pac go away at all, but the amount of money that Ohio, I don't know why Ohio State's stuck in my head. Oregon State and Washington State.
Yeah.
Okay. The amount of money that those schools will lose if this goes away, they'll go from 20 some $million or 15 or 16 million dollars in their budget to about 6 or 7.
Yeah, okay?
That's part of it. You've got universities from a travel standpoint where fans used to love to, go from Oregon to Washington to watch a game, or from, travel within a reasonable footprint of that. Now you're going to go watch games that are, I really want to see how many people show up the Rose Bowl to see UCLA play against Indiana. I mean,
I don't know.
I'm a fan. I wouldn't go across the street to watch that game.
Yeah, I don't know.
Minus 15,000.
Yeah, season ticket holders.
Oh.
But the whole concept of a conference was to make it so that people could enjoy, the rivalries within the boundaries of your region.
Right.
And now that's gone way by the wayside. And for what? So that you can lose less money? I mean, because that's really what it is. And I mean, there's teams in the teams in both the Big Ten and SEC who's losing money.
Right.
I mean, Alabama had to take out a loan to pay off their stadium renovation. Okay,
yeah,
so even schools who we think of as making money don't, and so you're moving because you get more money. Got it. Okay, but if there's only 31 or 32 schools in the entire, or is it almost 300 schools that are in Division One, are making money, then it's just a matter of you're playing on the margins. And do you blow up? And this is the question that's going to come to pass soon enough for the Pac, is do you blow the conference up? Because everybody that's there can stay there. Nobody says don't go. It's up to them.
Right.
And if whatever that number is, and I really don't know what the number is. I would guesstimate it would be in the low 20s, something like that. Are you going to blow the conference up for $8 or $9 million a year per?
Right, that's the big one. Did you know that before USC and UCLA left, reports were thinking that the Pac was going to earn about $50 million a year?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So you'd think that the Big would have maybe earned a little less, maybe around $75 million. They were right on the heels. It would have been. I mean, this conference had life really before that happened.
Yeah, I think what happened was the perception of USC and UCLA, more USC than UCLA, to be honest, was that they were not receiving what they deserved. Okay, and how could they get to that point?
Right.
And they really didn't want to talk to anybody about it. And they just decided, okay, then, because the president had been done. Oklahoma and Texas had left.
Right.
So that gave them the perfect out, because they could say, look, brands are moving. Big, major brands are moving.
Yeah.
I mean, major brands, Maryland and Rutgers wasn't going to move the needle anyway.
Right.
When they got those guys, right? It was important to them for specific reasons for the Big Ten. For the Big Ten to go out, and you just said it very, very eloquently, to go out and, kneecap the conference they've been working with since 1946.
Yeah.
Okay. They've had a relationship from the Pac-6 to the Pac-8 to the Pac-10 to the Pac-12 over these years. You cannot tell me that when you leave a conference like that there's not going to be hard feelings. You can't tell me, oh yeah, we'll work together. Oh yeah, really? Well, tell that to Oregon State, who suddenly, had to cut 7 programs in their sports because you guys had to have more money.
Right.
So,
yeah,
very...
plus the Big Ten alliance with the ACC and the Pac. I mean, it's all, I don't know. What a joke, right?
Look, I got to give this to Sankey. Greg Sankey, all along, never said he wanted to be in any alliance with anybody, and he's just like, hey, look, and the funny thing is, guys, they're staying within their footprint.
They're not going to jump anywhere.
They don't go anywhere.
No,
they'll take less money. They don't care.
Yeah.
People are saying, well, they're making less money than the Big Ten. Who cares? We're happy with what we got. We win championships. They don't. And, and to their situation, it's like, we're happy the way we got it. Okay. Because we know who we are.
And isn't that the watchword of the day? We know who we are. The ones that are succeeding are the ones that know who they are.
Right. Everybody else is paranoid.
Yeah.
Over their shoulders.
All right. Well, Jim Williams, you've given us 45 minutes, and I didn't want to hold you on any longer to get to your theater tickets or whatever you were doing.
Well, just go to a concert.
But we'll have you back. We do.
My pleasure. Anytime, guys.
We're going to pin you down to a holy war BYU Utah conversation at some point. We're talking. You can
Switzerland.
You're welcome to get behind Utah because I got all kinds of ammunition for Utah. But
well, I'm not very confident that the Gators are going to go over and win the game this year at the Bryce Eccles. I think this is we're in problems. By the way, just for the record, somebody put out there that Utah lost to an unranked team from Florida. That's not true. Florida was ranked whenever they lost, whenever they won. They fell out 2 weeks later, but they were ranked. But we hope everybody had a good time at the Swamp.
Absolutely. Find him at JW Media DC. Jim's got his own media company. And anything else, Jim, you want to leave with us?
I'm gonna start a little fun thing, which you guys can pop on anytime you want to. We're gonna do a daily thing called Stream On with Jim Williams. I've had that podcast for 4 years talking about streaming television.
Right.
And we've had some really good guests and a lot of fun people. So keep a lookout for that. We did a little test run this week and we've had some fun with it. And we just talk TV. And you can come on and talk TV sports. You can come on and talk about, what you're watching and why you're watching it. And we can have some fun. And we'll bring on some network executives, some people who star in some of the shows, and also as well some of the broadcasters that I've had the pleasure of working with over the years. And we're just gonna have some fun and talk TV on a daily basis. So that's coming. Keep an eye out for it, and I'll be writing as I usually do and trying to keep myself out of trouble as best I can in that regard. But guys,
it's Forbes magazine, right? Forbes is where they can
online.
find you.
It's
online.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's Zanger is their news service. So that's Forbes can be you can get it and it may pop behind a paywall, but a couple days later it'll be on Zanger. So don't worry about it. But guys, it's been a pleasure. I really have gotten a lot of education about Utah and about BYU, and it's been good. It's been all good. I can't tell you that the people have been really sweet and very nice, and I look forward to following both of you. And I wish you both all the best. And look, you've got my contacts if there's anything that I can do to help you guys out.
Right.
You know, whether it's come on or just get you some research. Let me know.
Well, we'll send you our stuff so we can get it open that actually
All right.
looks
Fair
pretty
enough.
and nice.
I'll do my best.
Hey, thanks, Jim. You are the guru. You are the college football and realignment guru.
Yes.
Follow this man. Follow him.
Absolutely. You stick around after Jim leaves when I want to talk a little bit. But thanks a lot, Jim. We'll talk to you later.
Always have a good day.
All right. We'll see you later.
And we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay. So, what do you think? You had some questions there. Very insightful comments.
Yeah, the Utes need a PR firm. That's so true.
Well, Endeavor is hiring right now. I think Endeavor wants to be hired by somebody.
Yeah, that's right. We might need a little Big 12 Karen action over in the Utah.
You know what? I cannot agree with him more. I think that they have really suffered, you know, where Yormark brought in Endeavor and immediately they were hit the ground running. I could have the detail wrong, but it's something like George Kliavkov hired a buddy or his personal fund, you know, group. And the disparity between the two approaches to PR has been so black and white. It's incredible.
It stinks. Yeah. On the Pac-12 side, the silence is killing us.
Yeah. And we want to really reach out to Utah fans. We've been talking about this the last couple of weeks, and we really want to give a voice to Utah fans that have largely stayed head down, speaking, you know, talking heads all over the place, do talking for them. We want to be that forum. We want to be the go-between between BYU and Utah versus the world. That's how we look at this. We're rivals, but we also have so many things that are similar. And we want to advocate for those people. And so please follow us and let us know what we can do to help you. We both are on Twitter. The Wild Ute is very active. I've got 3 Twitter accounts, my own personal one, and then Big 12 Mafia, and also the Holy Rivals. And we want to know what you guys want. We want to know what's going on. And we want to know what we can do
about this Jim Williams interview. This is really good stuff.
Absolutely. Oh, fantastic.
Yeah,
that's right.
Commercial relationships. I haven't heard that anywhere else. I mean, we've talked a lot about exposure, talked a lot about money, but really the commercial relationships with actually leaving a conference and perhaps jeopardizing those, you know, for a Washington or a Stanford,
right,
or even a Utah. I mean, that's something that we should think more about and really examine that, explore that.
I put a tweet out a couple weeks ago that basically said, I believe, and I've believed this from the beginning, I just only recently mentioned it, was that the only reason the Pac-12 still exists as an entity and why it didn't blow up last summer is because everybody's afraid to alienate Stanford. And I think this relationships thing that Jim just said the quiet part out loud, needs to get more run. I agree with you 100%, and I think we could explore that. We have Ryan Thomas and Jeff Fuller, the big stats people, active on Twitter. We're going to be having them on shows, and we're going to delve into what the data actually means. Not data just for data's sake, as we get from some people, but actually the context to go with the numbers.
Yeah, we're going to nerd out a little bit, get into the analytics, talk about them, see what's really going on.
Right.
Hey, Bomber, should we get to any comments or anything?
Right. Yeah. So let's see here. Sagebrush Brown, who says perception is reality.
Yeah.
I think that's exactly right. I think perception has been the problem for the Pac-12.
This isn't helping the perception.
That's right. That's exactly right.
But apparently there's supposed to be some type of conference on Monday in a few days here. So hopefully there's some news that comes out of that. Hopefully Georgie will come out with an announcement to stabilize the situation, because it feels real unstable right now.
Yeah, Greg Flugauer put out a timer 2 weeks ago that said May 17th. I'm not sure what that date actually means, but his money purchase from Arizona State. So that leads me to believe that he wouldn't say something like that if he didn't think there was a little smoke and maybe even a little spark to that. Connor Johnson, who we've really been engaging with him on Twitter, Conceal your intentions. Always say less than necessary. George Klyavkov. Isn't that the truth?
If it works or not, right?
Yeah, there's such a thing as
then that was a great
right. Yeah, there's such a thing as to being too quiet to even have people know who you are and they lose track of you, right? There is such a thing as being too under the radar. So I don't know.
It's going to be a case study, though. Either way, I mean, the silence.
The 30 for 30 episode is what I'm waiting for. The realignment 30 for 30. Let's see here if we have any. Connor Johnson, back the pack. There you go.
Back the pack.
I know
we're still in this. It's not over. It's not over.
Yeah, and I think he's he's like you. He's a passionate Pac-12 fan, and I appreciate that. And we invite as many Pac-12 fans to be here as possible. If the Pac-12 disappears, we want you to stick around. We're going to continue to talk everything West football because we're really underrepresented. We simply do not have a lot of voices out there. We're obviously Utah and BYU centric, but we believe in all the schools on the west side of the country. And I would love to really gin up Oklahoma State, that was a Freudian slip. Oregon State and Washington State. I'm passionate Northwest sports, and I don't want them to get lost in the shuffle either.
No, and shout out to Oregon State fans. I mean, seriously, they're so loyal out there. They want the Pac to survive. I mean, they're really similar to Utah in a lot of ways.
Right.
So major kudos to all you guys. Keep representing, keep doing your thing. And I'm just hoping that it turns out well for Oregon State. Same thing with Utah and everything, but really thinking about y'all.
Yep, definitely. Washington State, they're very passionate fans all over the country, and I've been really surprised by how inactive they have been on social media.
That's right. Yeah.
Sagebrush Brown says, "Enjoy the brotherly love, guys." Oh,
hey,
wow.
There's still a little brother, though. Hey, we all know who his little brother is. So.
Yeah, that's right. You're welcome, big brother. So let's see. So please engage with us online, subscribe, and hit that bell so you know when our shows come out. I want to really preface the show we're going to be doing on Monday with Ute fan Ivan. If you're not following him, Ute fan Ivan is a fantastic University of Utah ambassador. He does graphics, multimedia. Follow him on Twitter. But we're going to have him on Monday night, and I can't wait to talk to him.
Definitely. Yeah, looking forward to the conversation. And Ute fans, jump on. Let's wrap.
Yeah, Ute fans, you guys need to build an underground and start talking to one another and represent. You've been underrepresented, and we're giving you a voice now. Now there's no excuses. It needs to get out into the ether.
Skate at us. Come on, let's get on this thing and fight back a little bit here.
I can't disagree.
Last thought too is okay. So I realize, the Ute fans are still very much into USC, and I'm the same way. Hey guys, Ute fans, USC is leaving. This will be the last time we might ever play them, unless we somehow get into the Big Ten. Really, it's time to focus our attention back on our little brother BYU and start really going after them again and realizing that the Holy War rivalry is special. Really.
It is absolutely unique, and we need to exploit that and give voice to the people. As we're getting closer towards the beginning of the season, we will be doing interviews with players and all kinds of media personalities. And but we really want to hear from you. Please let us know what the topics are you want us to cover.
Yeah, give us feedback. Let us know your thoughts on what Jim said. Any other thoughts? Let's get some dialogue going.
Yep. Please follow Jim on Twitter, and he's my very special friend, Wild Ute, and I'm BYU Bomber, and we're glad to be with you tonight. And I hope everybody has a safe weekend.
Yep. Take care.